Good afternoon, Chairman Graham and members of the Council's Committee on Human Services. I'm David Berns, Director of the Department of Human Services, and I appreciate the opportunity to testify today on the shelter provisions for homeless families during the 2013-2014 hypothermia season. Since 2007, the district has seen a dramatic rise in family homelessness. After I joined you here in 2011, we began to work together on restructuring the district's approach to this issue. And as you know, the agency launched our homeless services integration effort in the fall of 2012. Our plan to restructure services to families who are homeless or experiencing high housing instability has three main components. First is to prevent or divert families from entering shelter by supporting community solutions. Second, to quickly exit shelter to permanent housing. And third, to reduce the need for families to return to shelter. The plan is premised on achieving more exits from shelter than new placements in shelter. This will allow us to provide year-round emergency shelter for families and eventually to reduce the need for shelter units. Last year, Mayor Gray asked the City Council for more legal authority to divert families from shelter by supporting other alternatives. We have thousands of families doubled up and with friends and relatives. In our assessment for their TANF customers, about 6,000 have identified that they're in unstable housing arrangements. On non-hypothermia nights, we work with families to maintain those arrangements until housing can be arranged. We generally do not place families into the shelter during the 7 months, and that's been testified to previously. But virtually all of the families that come in are doubled up, and we try to make arrangements to keep them in what is certainly unsatisfactory or non-ideal circumstances, but we do try to reserve our housing and our shelter slots to the highest need and the most crucial, so that we have room for those really emergent situations. We rarely have documented instances where families are sleeping on the streets, and when we do that, we work with other sister agencies and whatever resources we can to address those. During hypothermia alerts, families have learned that if they have if they claim and can demonstrate that they have no place else to go, we're required to place them. During this hypothermia season, we have little opportunity for checking with friends and relatives for alternatives. And once in, by law, we have no authority to require them to return to a doubled-up situation. We have to place them in an apartment that meets standards for size, price, and safety. All things that we think are good, but on the other hand, it means that we have an ever-growing number of people in very expensive types of shelter assignments. And as I've testified on many occasions, both for hotels and for DC General, the average cost on a full-time equivalency basis is $50,000 a year for either maintaining a family at DC General or in a hotel. The availability of places for families to exit to in terms of housing is very limited, and as many have already testified today, we're scouring. We're hoping that we can find some more units, but we have had a great difficulty in finding enough housing units, especially those that will accept a short-term voucher like rapid rehousing. The legislative change that the mayor asked for last year would have given us more control over the front door. The provision would have continued the right to shelter and hypothermia alerts, but the placement would have been provisional with the authority to require them to return to a doubled-up situation if available. Again, it's not ideal, but we were looking for a way so that we wouldn't have this massive, what we're seeing as many as 1,000 new families coming in, and trying to use the resources in the best possible way. Now, since that legislation was not passed, we find ourselves now with almost twice the number of families being placed during hypothermia season as we had last year. The winter plan projected 509 families would be placed during hypothermia season. So far, we've already placed over 600. I just got some the latest math. It's actually now up to around 700 families have been placed since the beginning of hypothermia season, and we're only 60% through that time. At this continuing rate, we will be well over 1,000 families if we were to continue, and I don't see that we can continue because we've run out of hotel rooms, but if we kept at the same pace as we've been going the last 3 months or so, it would be well over 1,000 in hotel rooms and at DC General. Of course, 2 additional factors are also contributing to the growth in family placement. They have not been the controlling factors, but we have faced the historic Arctic blast of the past month, presenting unprecedented risks to the families. And you mentioned my and the agency's response. This has been a citywide response with new approaches to the cold emergencies, and with certainly using every available resource we could have to keep both families and individuals in safe settings. And second, unlike previous years, and as Council Member you mentioned earlier, and Councilmember Tommy Wells also mentioned, we did not have a lot of vacancies going into the season. Now there's a difference of opinion. I tried to empty the facilities through getting people into rapid rehousing and other settings, and I thought we would be able to get up to 60 a month, and we actually only got up to 37 a month. I consider this a personal failure as well as a community issue, because we have scoured and just not been able to find enough placements, and we put some other systems. Every time we try, we identify a new strategy, we test it out and try it. If we would have had 60 placements per month last year instead of 37, that would have been another 275 placements, and we would have 275 people having left, and we would have had a virtually empty DC General and an empty hotel setting. So truly, it doesn't sound like very much, just 23 more people finding apartments, but that's 270 some people that would have been gone had we been able to maintain that or obtain that result. So we're continuing to try to exit, but if we continue at this pace, we'll have about 750 more families in placement at the end of this season than what we had at the beginning of the season. That's figuring over 1,000 people coming in and only about 250 exiting at about 50 or 60 per month. So that's a huge unanticipated amount. We expected to finish this year or this hypothermia season with about 200 families in hotels that we would rapidly move to move out. But if we end up with 750, we won't empty the hotels at the current pace until well after the next hypothermia season. Not only won't we empty it, but we may still have hundreds of families in hotels at the start of the next year. So this isn't just a crisis of today and what we're doing for the families that are coming in. This is a fiscal crisis as well, because we're starting so deep in the hole next year that all of the money will be going to maintain those that we're placing this year. So there's many activities that we're going to have to work on and problems to address. Seeing the numbers trending at a much faster pace than expected, we're undertaking the following additional measures. In order to ensure families in hotels receive case management and housing exit support, we've created a new dedicated a new hotel case coordination unit that provides very intensive case management for those that are in the hotels. These case coordinators are being deployed to serve customers on site at the facility in Maryland and at also in the two facilities in Maryland. And also there's the units are located in close proximity to other hotels and motels so that they can readily get to their clients. Also at the Virginia Williams Family Resource Center, we're bringing on additional staff, and in the short term, the Coalition for the Homeless is bringing in 4 additional staff on the 12 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. shift. And lastly, we're launching a hiring event to bring on additional full-time staff at DHS. Last year, we succeeded on many fronts. Placements into family shelter went down last year by about 100, or nearly 100% decrease from the 2012 winter season. And we talk about why didn't we anticipate this huge increase. Last year, we had a 20% decrease. There was pressure for us to say, well, let's use that as a trend and forecast that we'll have another 20% decrease, or just say that we'll at least match our performance for last year. And it was the department that was pushing for at least a 10% increase in the projections, just to err on the side of what we thought was caution. There wasn't anybody that came to me at any time that suggested we would double the number of placements this year. Again, maybe better mind than mine could have sought, but it was a community decision. It was debated widely. It was reached through the consensus at the proper committee at the ICH, passed by the ICH, and this was not one of the controversial provisions that even came to anybody's attention. During last year, the Virginia Williams Family Resource Center served over 5,000 unique families. So when we're talking about this increase in placements, we actually served 5,000 families, over 4,000 of whom did not have to come into shelter, and we served in other ways, rapid rehousing somewhat, but more ERAP, emergency rental assistance programs, supports to families, stipends, first month's rent, those kinds of approaches, and ways to, if you're a family member and it's costing you extra, to even help support family members that are helping families to be doubled up. This number is also served through our TANF program. We talk a lot about prevention, but when you get right down to it, prevention is about getting people jobs and economic security. And if we have a multi-million-dollar program called TANF that is designed to help these very same families, so we integrated those two, and the assessment may seem intrusive when they first come in, but it's so that we can start on their prevention and intervention plan on the day that they come in and not wait for months later to have that assessment and to begin the services that they need right away. We have integrated services at the site now, such as child support, the Office of the State Superintendent of Education, child care, access to child care, and child and family services. Now, the number of families exiting shelter last year, however, did not meet our projection. I already talked about that. But to understand why they didn't, we've created a centralized information system for the housing process so that everyone helping families to exit sees the same information, which addresses the fragmented data and communication project we found around housing services. Second, we improved and streamlined the housing unit identification and certification process. Again, trying to find those extra 23 or so additional apartments every month so that we would have dedicated staff doing that. And third, we changed the DC general case management model from general case management to a very targeted approach on housing first, which is really the national strategy and state of the art. You get people into housing before you really address many of their other issues like employment and substance abuse and mental health, because they're not very successful in addressing those until they actually get into housing. And so we've changed, again, that case management model. We're continuing to support customers' connection with their TANF service provider so that they have unified case plans. And when the family enters DC General, the case manager meets with the family to address any urgent and immediate needs, works as part of the team with the TANF services provider, coordinates the services prioritization decision assistance tool, lovingly called SPDAT, which is just an acronym for getting a better upfront assessment, and helps us identify the appropriate housing assistance and works with the customer to identify, select, and lease up the housing unit. Now, with these changes, we're starting to see an increase in the exits to housing, but finding affordable units remains a significant challenge. We're working with multiple providers, government agencies, and the community to identify any available units. And as the longer-term solution, of course, we're all grateful to the mayor for providing $187 million in new resources for the development and construction of affordable housing. Absolutely essential. It's the right thing to do, but that housing will not be available in the next couple of months to meet this emergent need. And although we have longer-term solutions, we must see the current situation as a crisis requiring immediate attention. We have to find ways to divert many, if not most, of our new placements into housing and before they are placed into shelter. And as an addendum to my formal written testimony, I'd like to share the crux of an emergency alert that I sent out to ICH members, Collective Impact, and others just, I think it was last Thursday. And as a result of the unprecedented number of homeless families entering our shelter this winter, we've reached a new level of crisis in the family shelter system. I want to alert you to the following in order to ensure that we as a community can bring our best thinking to this very challenging situation. The ICH Winter Plan projected 509 family shelter placements during the FY 13-14 winter. So far, we have over 600 now. That should be 700 placements, and we're only two-thirds way through the season. All emergency family shelter at DC General is full. At the time, 472 families were in hotels, 362 in DC, 110 in Maryland. And due to concerns raised about placements outside the district, and I must say it wasn't just the officials in PG County, but many people have raised concerns about placing families outside of the district. And a decision was made that we will move expeditiously, but not immediately, to return those families to the district. They're not demanding, nobody's demanding that they come back. But one thing that hasn't been mentioned is that we always lose a large number of our hotel rooms when we have the Cherry Blossom Festival. we can only anticipate about 200 of those 462 rooms being available in another 6 weeks to 2 months. So it's not just the 110 that we have to bring back from Maryland. It's the other 150 or so hotel rooms that are already booked and promised to other tourist guests who would be coming in. And so this is adding to the sense of urgency and immediacy, again, not only for bringing the families back, but for dealing with the loss of those hotel placements in 6 to 8 weeks. As a result, we are making emergency shelter available at DC recreation centers during the hypothermia alerts. And our challenges include unanticipated and unbudgeted costs for the family hotels. Again, have been able to move things around and to be able to pay the bills, but a conservative estimate is that this is a $20 million increase in unbudgeted expenses for the increase in families into the hotels and shelter system. And again, the decreasing hotel availability as we enter the tourist season, including Cherry Blossom Festival. And I'm just so appreciative that you have scheduled this hearing, because I really want to say that it sounds bad. It's worse than it sounds, because we really have to come up with a solution that addresses the issue today and continues to address the issue as we move forward. So thank you very much.